Good morning and welcome to the 100 Club. I'm Tom, joined again by Rich to talk all things cricket. Rich, how are you doing?
I'm very well, Tom. We're finally made it to the IPL eliminators. A mere 6 months after we started.
As you can see, yeah, it has taken a while. As you can see, I'm not in my usual location. I'm on the move, so I feel like I'm off to the IPL. Perhaps today to see the first qualifier, which is taking place. Why don't you start today's episode by just talking through the finals process in the IPL?
Yeah, so what happens in the IPL is the top 4 qualify for the eliminators, and the top 2, who are Delhi Capitals and Chennai Super Kings, they play today in the first eliminator. Now the winner goes straight to the final, but the loser gets a second bite of the cherry. They get to play the winner of the third, fourth match, which is Royal Challengers Bangalore against Kolkata Knight Riders. And then that match provides the other finalist, as it were. So if you lose today, one of Delhi or Chennai, you get another chance to get to the final, which sort of rewards finishing in the top 2 of the table.
Yeah, it feels like a good system to me. So the top 2 being Delhi Capitals and CSK, as you say, they scored 20 and 18 points respectively. Now, RCB, third place, also on 18 points with a poorer net run rate. And as you say, Kolkata Knight Riders slipped in to fourth place. And that was ultimately the story of this week, wasn't it, in the games? Is sorting out who was going to be that fourth place team.
Yeah, a bit anticlimactic in the end, I guess. When we talked last week, that was the top 4, and it remains so. The question was whether Mumbai Indians could drag themselves back into the mix, and they did all they could, especially with that thumping win earlier in the week over the Rajasthan Royals. They beat by 8 wickets with 70 balls left, which did a huge amount for their net run rate. And they went into that last game against Sunrisers Hyderabad, needing to win by 171 runs to have any chance, and they weren't quite able to do it.
So it's quite weird. Yeah, they couldn't win that game essentially unless they batted first, which 50-50 already as to whether they're going to get into that position. So, but they do bat first. They need to score 250 runs, and they get to 235. So a pretty good effort. And the story in both those games for Mumbai Indians this week, I think, which I think is of interest for the World Cup coming up, is the form of Ishan Kishan.
Yeah. So he struck, 84 off 32 balls in that total of 235. The other big innings there
50
was
not out.
Yeah, in that other innings. And Surya Kumar Yadav also sort of had an 80 odd off 40 balls. They were the only 2 to really get going in that innings. I think the highest score in the IPL is something like 263. And they needed something like that. And at one point, they looked like they were on for it. They were going at sort of 13s, but Sunrisers, Rashid Khan just dragged it back a little bit. I think Jason Holder bowled well in that game. Comparatively, it was a high-scoring game because Sunrisers themselves put up 193.
Jason Holder got 4 wickets, and I suppose that's the story of fifth place. Yeah, he is in good form. Interesting to watch that for the World Cup. But yeah, so Mumbai Indians is the story of fifth place. Kolkata Knight Riders, despite all of their wobbles, their issues, they have brought themselves into good form and got themselves through with 2 good wins this week as well to get that fourth place.
Yeah, and Eoin Morgan even got to double figures. So
he had a very nice 6.
Yeah, he is the form player going into the knockouts. But I mean, let's deal with that eliminator first, perhaps, and then we can come on to talk about Delhi and Chennai. I think that RCB are massive favourites going into this one. I think that they are in good form. They had a thumping win in their last game against the Delhi Capitals. I know Delhi weren't necessarily, having to play at 100%, but from what I saw of that game, they were certainly, playing to win. And RCB looked a better side in that match. And I think they got the momentum. And I think they got the momentum because of Glenn Maxwell.
Glenn Maxwell in great form, hit 2 half centuries this week, doing a lot of damage at the minute.
He has. I mean, his last 5 innings, Tom, 56 against Mumbai Indians, 50 not out against Royals, 57 against Punjab Kings, 40 against Sunrisers, and then, as you said, 51 not out yesterday against Delhi Capitals. So, put a really good string of scores together. And he's been bowling well as well, picking up some crucial wickets along the way. So, I think he's a real key man. He will be in the World T20. He's not.
Yeah, apologies.
His partner in crime in the middle order, AB de Villiers, the RCB, won't be in the World Cup, of course, but he's been
that to explain was my confusion. I had AB de Villiers in there. Obviously, South African, not Australian as well. So I don't know what was on about.
But So I think RCB my tips there. Out of the other two, Delhi, Chennai. I think we're both fans of the canniness of the Chennai Super Kings, aren't we, Tom?
Well, yeah. I mean, they've essentially qualified a week and a half ago now, and they've used a rotation system. They've taken a break. I think the results haven't necessarily followed. Therefore, this week I think they've played twice and lost twice. But as you know, they're a batting team, and for me, the Delhi Capitals are very much a bowling team. So we're going to see that sort of clash. I think will define today's success or not, and whether Enric Nortje can continue his great form with Rabada alongside. We'll see. And ultimately, a little bit of this one, I think, is probably going to come down to the pitch that they end up on.
Yeah, we've seen some quite low scores and some difficult chases of low targets. As we thought we might. Because there's only 3 grounds being used. There's only a limited number of pitches, and so they are getting a bit slow and tired as we get through the tournament. We'll see what Bravo et al. can bring to the party for the Super Kings in this one.
Well, I think we talked about him last week. He probably is the ace in the hole for CSK. I think they'll be looking to see him actually do a bit with the bat and ball on this occasion.
He is. After we said he was hot, he bowled 2 overs against Punjab, which went for 32. He got on the wrong end of KL Rahul, who had that blistering 98 not out. So I think he was out, but it was a story of what might have been for the Punjab Kings this season. Got themselves in a lot of winning positions along the way, and you just weren't clinical enough. And it's interesting too, Tom, because the IPL is about to change massively going into next year.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, so it's got the 2 franchises to be announced, I think, on the 25th of October. Yeah,
and we mentioned last week that's likely to be Ahmedabad in Gujarat and Lucknow in Uttar Pradesh sort of seem to be the front runners. Potentially Taunton as well, as you pointed out. But also we're going to have the realignment, the new mega auction, right? So I think each team can only retain 4 players. Is that right?
4. Yeah. So it's 4 players, so there's going to be a real chance for some franchises to turn themselves around. And T20 cricket is always close. So I wouldn't overplay how much difference your team is going to see up and down necessarily, but I do think we're going to see a lot of player movement. And it'll be interesting to see whether there is a bit of a changing of the guard, perhaps. That some of these older sort of stalwarts of the franchises are allowed to sort of go off to pasture, as it were, and we get some young blood coming in who will be the stars of the IPL for the next decade.
Potentially.
Yeah. So maybe some of that 100 form could pull through eventually for the young England guns. We'll wait to see. So time to put your neck on the line then. Of the 4 teams, Delhi Capitals, CSK, RCB, and KKR, who is going to win the IPL 2021?
CSK.
You're going with CSK. I'm going to go with Delhi Capitals. I think they've been very impressive throughout. Bowling attack will do the job, but we will see. That's Friday, I think, the final.
Yeah.
And other cricket we've enjoyed this week has to include, I think, the ongoing series between Australia and India, women's cricket down in Australia. Clearly, after the Test match played itself out to a 4-day draw, they had the T20 games coming up this week. And again, slightly disappointing. The first game was a bit of a washout, a no result. But they did have the second game yesterday. How did you get on with that one?
Well, just to go back to the first game, I mean, they got through 15 overs of the Indian innings, and they were going really well. I think they got to 131 for 4. Jimmy Rodriguez was 49 not out after only 15 overs. So, posted a really big score. Didn't do so well in the second. I think they only posted 118, but made it tight. Had the Aussies 6 wickets down. I think they got over the line in 19.1, 19.2 overs. I think Talia McGrath was sort of the key contributor there. But it just goes to show that Australia for so long have been the dominant force in women's cricket, but this Indian side really can go toe to toe with them.
They really can, and I think we saw that summer when they're playing England. They've got a lot of talent, and I think it's like most women cricket, it's focused on the shorter forms of the game, but they did really well in the Test match as well. So a lot to hope and look forward to there for Indian women's cricket.
Yeah, and I think it bodes really well for the Women's World Cup coming up in February next year.
Certainly does. I don't think there's a shoe-in for Australia at all. Although we probably still should call them favourites, right?
Oh no, they undoubtedly are favourites. But as I've said before, there's 4 or 5 teams who on their day can beat them. So it should be fascinating.
Yeah, it's a good game, and I haven't got the table to hand for that series, but I think that's still open for either of the teams to win it. I think they're getting, what, 1 point for a T20 win?
I'm not sure. I think Australia might be uncatchable now with that win, but we'd have to check it.
Apologies for that. If we dig that out, we'll put it in the comments down below. So IPL finals this week is the big event, and ongoing preparation for the World Cup, which begins, I believe, just straight on the back of the IPL wrapping up.
It does. It's the as we talked about the non-super part, the qualifiers, as it were.
The groups
almost immediately. The groups, with the likes of Ireland and Scotland, Papua New Guinea, Namibia, Bangladesh, of course, are in that part. Who else? Oman,
Sri Lanka. Did you mention?
And of course, Sri Lanka in that part as well. So that should be entertaining. I would mention one bit of cricket this week. Zimbabwe played their first. Women played their first ODI. They beat Ireland thanks to a fantastic 100 by Marianne Musonda, their captain. That was a good watch. So congratulations to her, and good to see another team join the ranks of the ODI fold.
One to watch. Remember the name, Rich.
Absolutely. And of course, the Women's Big Bash starts this week down in Australia, and quite a few players who made their name in the 100, the likes of Izzy Wong and Eve Jones, Lindsay Smith, not necessarily in the England squad, but performed well in that tournament, have got Big Bash contracts off the back of it. So that should be interesting to see how they go.
It's always a bit of a show, the Women's Big Bash, so we'll definitely keep an eye out for that. Rich, we'll keep it short and sweet this week because I'm on the move. But thanks very much for joining us.
You're off to the birthplace of Moises Enriques.
I am. I'll have to get some sun. Hopefully, I wouldn't look this dreadful next time you see me next week. But if you enjoyed that content, let us know. We'd really appreciate it, and you'll catch us next time here on the 100 Club.
Bye.